Now from Washington, NBC News national security analyst Jeremy Bass. He's a former chief of staff at the CIA and Department of Defense. So, Jeremy, what's going on?
Yeah, Jeremy, it looks like the DOD and at least some at CENTCOM were caught off guard by this statement, basically predicting a military attack by the United States.
Yeah, usually these statements are vetted by the intelligence community, by DOD, by the State Department. They are sent around the interagency. Remains to be seen this morning whether that was done. Look, in terms of the content of this statement, it says he and his military, Assad and his military, will pay a heavy price. So that's clearly laying the groundwork for a military strike, not just on one particular airfield, not just 59 Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles that was done in the April counterattack, but something potentially more serious, potentially involving U.S. aircraft. But of course, this is really complicated now because what happened last Sunday was after a U.S. Navy F-18 downed an Su-22 Syrian fighter, Russia effectively declared a no-fly zone of its own in the western part of Syria, saying basically if a U.S. aircraft comes up in the air in the western part of the Euphrates, the west of the Euphrates in Syria, the Russians are going to shoot it down. And so it's unclear how we would conduct this attack without pushing Russia out of the way. And this morning, Joe and Mika, I think that's kind of the big question, which is this president willing to push Vladimir Putin out of the way so that we potentially counterstrike against the Assad regime for a chemical weapons attack in Syria?
Okay, we're going to watch that and then bring this story in. There's a lot going on this morning. President Trump now accusing President Obama of colluding with Russia and is demanding an apology, though it's unclear from whom. He wrote on Twitter yesterday. No, say that a little louder and with, quite frankly, concern. The real story is that President Obama did nothing after being informed in August about Russian meddling, adding, with 4 months looking at Russia under a magnifying glass, they have zero tapes of the people colluding. There is no collusion, no obstruction. I should be given an apology. This is our president tweeting yesterday. Earlier, he tweeted the reason that President Obama did nothing about Russia after being notified by the CIA of meddling is that he expected Clinton would win and did not want to rock the boat. He didn't choke. He colluded or obstructed, and it did the Dems and crooked Hillary no good. This is the president. And an off-camera, and that's just a question within itself, audio only news briefing yesterday, Press Secretary Sean Spicer defended the president's accusation that his predecessor colluded with Russia.
What evidence does he have that President Obama was colluding or obstructing?
Well, again, I think it comes back to this idea that if they've been very clear, they've been playing this card about blaming Trump and Russia, and yet at the same time, they were the ones who, according to this report, knew about it and didn't take any action. So the question is, if they didn't take any action, does that make them complicit? I think that there is a lot of questions that have to get answered about who did know what and when.
Why was that off camera? Why would the press do that? Why would we allow that?
It's a question going on. NBC's Kristen Welker pressed Spicer on the hypocrisy of the president's tweet, pointing to one of his infamous comments from the campaign trail.
This was President Trump on the campaign trail. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press. How can he accuse President Obama of obstructing when he was egging Russia on?
He was joking at the time.
And then here's then-candidate Trump in the press conference that Kristen Welker was referencing. Let's see if he was joking.
It's just a total deflection, this whole thing with Russia. By the way, if they hacked, they probably have her 33,000 emails. I hope they do. They probably have her 33,000 emails that she lost and deleted, because you'd see some beauties there. So let's see. It would be interesting to see. I will tell you this. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press. Let's see if that happens.
Do you have any qualms about asking a foreign government, Russia, China, anybody, to interfere, to hack into a system of anybody's in this country.
That's up to the president. Let the president talk to him. Look, here's the problem.
No, you just,
here's the problem, Katie. Katie, here's the problem. Very simple.
You said the Russians.
He has no respect.
You said I welcome them to find those 30,000 emails.
Well, they probably have them. I'd like to have them released.
But does that not give you pause?
No, gives me no pause. If they have them, they have them. We might as well find. Hey, you know what gives me more pause? That a person in our government, crooked Hillary Clinton. Here's what gives me more. Be quiet. I know you want to, save her. That a person in our government, Katie, would delete or get rid of 33,000 emails. That gives me a big problem. After she gets a subpoena. She gets subpoenaed, and she gets rid of 33,000 emails. That gives me a problem. Now, if Russia or China or any other country has those emails, I mean, to be honest with you, I'd love to see them.
Shortly after that press conference, Trump tweeted, if Russia or any other country or person has Hillary Clinton's 33,000 illegally deleted emails, perhaps they should share them with the FBI.
Really? Where do we begin? Again, and Sean Spicer saying he was joking. He's not joking. They're accusing Barack Obama of colluding. Again, this guy, now under investigation by Bob Mueller, has brought everything on himself. And the deeper he gets in it, the more he digs, the more destructive he becomes to himself.
Well, they're all over the place. He, in particular, are all over the place on their explanation for what happened. Remember, he said maybe they meddled, maybe it was China, I don't know. Then we got to the place where Sean Spicer said, I haven't spoken to the president. We couldn't get the president to acknowledge whether or not Russia interfered in the election. Then in the tweet about President Obama, while he thought implicating President Obama, admitted that there was meddling in the election. Now he's saying, in fact, it's President Obama who was obstructing and colluding with the government.
The stupidity.
The story has taken so many twists and so many turns, but he's going off that Washington Post story of last week, which said, as we reported on this show through the Washington Post, that the White House, the Obama administration, soft-pedaled Russia because they didn't want to be seen as putting their thumb on the scale of that campaign, of that election. That's the mileage President Trump thinks he's getting out of this, and he thinks he's got the winning argument because of that piece in the Washington Post.
And now saying Barack Obama colluded.
Mike Marnicle, what's going on?
Well, I'll tell you, I don't want to, throw this thing off the trolley tracks, but I think the largest story here, and it involves Russia as well, is the statement that Jeremy Bash was just talking about at the top of the hour. Basically, here we come in Syria. I mean, tempting Russia to do something, with two planes within 15, 20 feet over each other last week, Russia and the United States. This is dangerous stuff.
And our intelligence community
the statement they issued, at least to me, is sort of unheard of. I don't know about to Jeremy.
Jeremy?
Yeah, Jeremy?
Well, it's not unheard of to kind of issue a warning like this from the White House in conjunction with other statements from principals. Usually, look, the way I think they ought to have done this was the president had an event in the Rose Garden yesterday with the Indian Prime Minister. You normally put a topper on the president's speech and basically say, look, there's an important development in the Middle East. I want to, as commander-in-chief, address the nation, address the world, talk about the severity of this. And then you kind of leave the backup to statements and you leave the political snark to Sean Spicer. They've got this totally reversed. The president's doing the political snark, and Sean Spicer's doing the big commander-in-chief national security declarations at nighttime. It's kind of totally upside down.
Well, Jeremy Bash, we appreciate